Hello, everybody. I think I am live. And how are you guys this Wednesday evening? Let me just refresh. I just want to make sure that I am up and running. I don't know why this isn't running. Uh, Hello, everybody. Gosh. I'm working StreamYard. I see that it's coming up on YouTube. Make sure that it's running for everybody. If you see me on LinkedIn, please say hello. I am live. We are going to do this tonight and complain about everything that is going wrong. Here we are on LinkedIn as well. Great. Okay, so StreamYard. Everybody. Okay. It's you've been doing closed captioning. I like this. Sorry, everybody. This is my very first time using StreamYard. And I see, okay, awesome. So I at least have somebody in the box. Tiffany, great. Tiffany Cruz, fabulous. Another Tory Award-winning resume writer is in the chat. We'll have others, I'm sure, come in momentarily. And here they come. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to let people kind of get into the waiting room for a split second. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing that I do. Sorry for the last minute invitation. This is just sort of something that over the last week or so, LinkedIn has gone through a bunch of changes. It's kind of brought me over the open to work hashtag. And I've been seeing so many job seekers with just the same ridiculous frustrations. And I want to talk you through them. And I want to get a little tipsy with you. Now, my co-host tonight, my beautiful co-host is Decoy Merlot. And honestly, it is, I'm not a Merlot person myself. I prefer like something juicier like a Pinot Noir or a Cabernet. But this is actually, I had a sip of this earlier. It is pretty darn tasty. So get yourself a glass of wine or a beverage of choice, or, if you're sober, that's great. If you need to do shots after some of these, you might need to bolster yourself. A couple items that I definitely want to get to tonight. Hold on, I just want to have one sip of this. Yeah, it's some good stuff. Also, since I don't normally like Merlot, I'll probably sip this slower so that when I get to the good stuff, like solutions and how to actually get a job in this crazy, crazy market, hopefully I won't be so schnockered. All right, so some of the things I want to discuss tonight are ghosting. Big word right now is the big trend, ghosting from recruiters. I want to talk about recruiters and how they kind of function, what they're thinking about you right now. I want to talk about fake jobs. I think one of the biggest issues that we are running into right now in this job market are just completely BS jobs. And some of that is really, really shocking. And it's starting to become mainstream news this last week, some of the trends that are going in that direction. I also want to, of course, talk about the overall economic conditions, why the current job market is the way it is, how AI is throwing all of this into a tailspin, not only in companies maybe using AI to replace employees, but also how AI resumes, spamming are competing with you in the job market, leading us, of course, to applicant tracking systems, how they use these AI and algorithms to even review your resume in the first place. And then, of course, really talk about understanding job search rejection, knowing the difference of if you're being rejected by a human being or a computer because a human being never even saw you, and why you might be getting rejected. Maybe if we have time, I'll talk about open to work, the hashtag and all the stuff that's kind of going on with LinkedIn right now, to explain why your average job seeker on LinkedIn is getting absolutely harangued now by resume writers, career coaches, recruiters. It's crazy out there. But then we're going to talk solutions. I've got a few never tricks that really help out job seekers. But I really want you to understand the why and what you're experiencing right now, because frankly, a lot of people out there, they sort of feel like they're flying blind, like they're just throwing their resumes into a great big void, and nobody's out there and nobody's responding, even if they're really incredibly qualified, even if they have all the degrees and all of the accomplishments. It kind of feels, I heard one person describe it as, uh, you know, doing a pinata and just blindfolded with a stick in the dark and never landing a blow. So we don't need to feel like that. Let's feel at least a little bit in control of our job searches. First thing, ghosting. Ghosting is the big word, I think, of 2014. Prior to the pandemic, the big word was disruption. We're going to have all this disruptive technology. Then 2020 came along. Everything was about diversity and inclusion. That kind of gelled into collaboration. Now, then it became, of course, AI, and AI has really bombarded everybody, all of their senses. And when it comes to the job market, it is ghosting, ghosting, ghosting. Now, right now, everybody's ghosting each other. It seems to be the new normal. Ghosting has always been a thing in a job search, even back in the day when people would type their resumes out, and even in Leonardo da Vinci's day, they would send out resumes, and of course, people didn't always respond that they even received them. So ghosting is technically nothing new, but it is becoming more and more acceptable. Recruiters are feeling less bad about ghosting. They Most recruiters don't intend to ghost you. They don't want to ghost you. It's just that they have other things to do. Something else comes along. It's very much a fast-paced, salesy environment. So I've been told by several recruiters this week to tell you guys on their behalf, don't take it personally. They just lose track. Of course, recruiters themselves, they're getting ghosted a lot too. But that does depend on the kind of jobs. What one recruiter told me, I almost never get ghosted by a doctor, but I get ghosted by a lot of janitors. And this, depending on the level of job, they get ghosted a lot too. So I think it's just sort of like the new normal and manners. You know how like back in the day, talking on a cell phone in public or was unheard of as unthinkably rude. Now everybody does it. I think it's just unfortunately the new normal, and which is unfortunate because if you're getting rejected, you want to know why. Now, when it comes to recruiters, they do want to help you. They do want to help you, but right now, when economic conditions are bad, I've been doing this since 2004. I am at my 20th anniversary this year, and I went through the last major recession. One of the first people that get kind of hurt and beat up in an economic climate like this is our recruiters. Recruiters, they really rush, they really suffer. They're complaining on job board, or not job boards, but groups. I'm in a lot of like recruiter groups. They complain constantly that if I just started this profession, is it even worth getting into? And most of the seasoned, the really good recruiters are like, no, leave now. This is a shit show. Run away. And there are recruiters like anything else. There are really good ones. There are internal ones that work with companies that are very familiar with exactly the hiring managers and what those people need and qualifications that only obviously ever want to please people. Understand, recruiters are not beholden to job seekers. You're not their customer. You're a job seeker. Recruiters aren't there to work for you. Their goal is to serve their client, which is if you're internal in an HR office, let's say you're internally at Amazon, your job is to please the executives or the managers in Amazon and make sure that they're happy with their staff members. And you have KPIs or key performance indicators, you have metrics and scores for that. You have speed to hire and all these things. So they do want to work with you and they want you, to really get a job. They're not working against you. You're focused more on getting the qualified person into that job quickly. And then you have external private recruiters that will work with smaller companies, and they'll just be off on the side, and but they get a commission. They get commission based on what your salary is. So they're motivated not only to get the best person in there because they are serving clients, they want repeat business, they want that company to come back to them with really good quality candidates, with really good employees, but they also want to make as much money as possible, right? So they can negotiate even sometimes a really good salary on your behalf. Like it's usually when you're talking about an external recruiter, they can do a really good job. If you suck at negotiation, you can end up sometimes with a higher salary because an external recruiter got your back. It is really great when you have a really talented, very seasoned recruiter who truly believes in you, because that person often goes from company to company, and they'll usually be focused on an industry. So if like you're in logistics or you're in IT and they have a lot of connections there, they can hook you up. So I'm a big proponent of finding external recruiters, going online, Googling companies that, recruiting firms that specialize in this, private recruiting firms, private recruiters that specialize in these fields. And if you get in good with them, that can be incredibly helpful. Some of the best jobs that will come from that. However, there are bad recruiters. There are a lot of fly-by-nights out there. There are people who are affected by this economy, that were impacted by the pandemic, and they're basically like cheesy salespeople, and they're desperate. And you got to kind of smell and sense the difference. I've seen it, some complaints earlier this week. One lady did not have a very important, very necessary technical skill in a technical position. That was a clear requirement of the job. But the recruiter kept informing, oh, no, they don't really need it. They don't really need it. Well, yes, of course, the company needed it. And so a lot of these desperate, sad recruiters will try to make a square peg fit a round hole. And that's not terrific. So you got to keep that in mind. If a recruiter is shifty, if a recruiter starts kind of putting down your qualifications, like, oh, you're just anybody, I have a million of you in my pocket, like that's like a weird leveraging trick. And it's a desperate move. If they're desperate, they reek of desperation, take it with a grain of salt. If they want you to pay for their services, never pay a recruiter. Never pay a recruiter. That is not your job. It is whoever is hiring people. Those are the people that pay recruiters, not job seekers. So avoid that. Okay, so now I'm going to take a sip here, and I think y'all should do a shot with me. If you have a drink, by all means, because, oh my gosh, we're going to get into the fake jobs of it all, and that's really annoying. And, if you guys like any of this, please, by all means, if you're on my YouTube channel, like and subscribe, make your comments, anything, let me know. I don't know. I'm going to see if I like doing this, if I do this once a week. I appreciate you all being here, though. Okay. Let's talk about fake jobs. Fake jobs are the absolute worst, and they are a problem, and they are continuing to be a huge, huge problem, not only to job seekers, but they're starting to really become a problem in this economy. And by this economy, I know we have people around who, good for you, Dave. My buddy Dave is going to uncork his medicine. I know he's going to start his job search soon. But I'm talking about the United States. So I don't know about these practices necessarily overseas, anybody joining us from out of the United States. But in the United States, we have something called the Fed, which I will get into later, that determines our interest rate. And it's it's impacted by all the fake jobs out there. So what's going on is a lot of companies out there will post jobs that never get filled. And it used to be, and there are some out there that are absolute scams. There are small companies you've never heard of. As soon as you apply for their job, They're going to try to take your information. They're going to want your social security number. Don't give your social security number out to anybody until you've had a job interview. They're going to try to get your information. There are some on the extreme level, and it's rare. But on the extreme level, there are people that just post fake jobs to rip you off, to steal your identity. Okay, that's the most extreme, and it's rare. There are a lot of just BS jobs out there that on an extreme level, like they're multi-level marketing, the MLM pyramid schemes that want you to buy a lot of their products and sign up other people to work for you with some sort of scam. There's a lot of that. There's some that are just like nonsense. They're not nonsense jobs. I mean, I guess people can make them work, but I notice a lot of people when they sign themselves up for open to work or they apply to jobs, they start getting approached by finance companies and insurance companies that, oh, you want to be a financial planner, you want to be an insurance, you want to sell our insurance, and we'll sell you. We want to sit on this board at a college. I've done a lot of college boards that want you to take their class, and it's ever free. They never just want you for your wisdom, unless you're actually like a high-end person. They're usually after you to like, oh, you got to take this class. You're going to pay for this executive course. It's only like $800. That's a discount. We normally charge $1,200, but for you, only $800. You take this class, and you get to join our board and tell us what you think about the class. If you're in insurance, hey, you want to learn everything about insurance? That's great. Just come over, spend $4,000 on this training program, and then after that, you work 100% on commission. Some of these financial planning and insurance jobs are actually free to start. You can just get right into them right away, but they take a commission. It's a commission-only job. And so you've got to be really good. You have to have connections. So most people fail at that, especially if they've never done sales, they know nothing about finance or insurance. So you get a lot of those fake jobs. But then the problem is when you have known companies, and this is where the real problem is, I think, impacting job seekers, because all that nonsense, the scams, the identity thefts, that's always been a thing. It's always been there, right? The heartbreaking thing is that all of these major companies, they call them FANG in the recruiter industry, which stands for like Facebook, Amazon. I forget there's another another big one, Netflix, Google. But these really big, large companies that control everything now, they're doing it to death. And there's a couple of legitimate reasons why you'll see a job posting and apply to it and see that the next month later they haven't filled the position. The next month later they still haven't filled the position. It goes on for 4 months. It's a fake job. Now, sometimes, on rare occasion, there are incredibly difficult positions to fill where they legit, even if thousands of people apply, they cannot find the right candidate. It happens. It simply happens rarely. Most of the time they're doing this because it's cheap now to apply to post a job. And there are a lot of, well, for one of the reasons they do this, cheap now to apply for jobs. And then these companies like ZipRecruiter will have discounts. They'll have bargains. They'll say, okay, you can post 7 jobs this month, the same price that you post 4 jobs this month. And so what are they going to do? They're going to be like, well, they're free job postings. We can have these job postings. We'll list them. And then we'll get some people in case we actually hire for those roles. Well, sure, that's just an extra bonus. And if we should need somebody for that position, we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and we'll hire. And, but otherwise it's fake. They don't really intend on hiring people. It's sort of a just in case thing. There's also something smaller companies do where they'll, if you've been working at a job in a department and you're overworked, you're overstressed, all the people in your department have left. A lot of times you will just be like, I'm quit unless you hire some help. Come on, boss, I need some help. And then the boss will say, Oh yeah, sure. We're gonna just put in a job description there and make you, the employee, believe that you're going to get some much needed help. And they never plan on filling those jobs either. They're just sort of bringing you along to make as much money as they possibly can. That's an old employer trick. What's happening for the most part, though, is two major things that are really changing, and why we've seen a 77% uptick in these fake jobs is one, remote work. You'll see, I'm sure if you go through a job search, you'll see that, one job will be repeated in all the same different cities. It'll be like the same job. That's a remote job, but they post it in New York, they post it in San Francisco, they post it in Boston. That is because they just want to attract job seekers from quality cities to apply for the same remote job. So you might see like 5 or 6 postings where they're legitimately only trying to fill one job. Okay. So that's one thing that's going on. But the other thing is just strictly data mining. These companies are getting out of control with the data mining. And frankly, this, to a level, I feel like this should be illegal, honestly. Like it's ridiculous. So, for example, if like, and I'm going to use Amazon as an example because they are a huge offender of this. Amazon will not really want to hire people. They know they're not going to hire people. They know they're going to hire like whatever X amount of people. And well, to give you a very specific example, Business Insider caught a single Amazon team. They posted nearly 25,000 jobs, and they only had internal approval to fill 7,800 of them. 4 times the amount of jobs they actually needed, 4 times the positions they sent out, 4 times more, or nearly 4 times the amount of jobs that they needed. Why do they do that? Well, one, because they can. And on their own website, it's totally free to do that. On these other sites, they get huge discounts, they negotiate discounts, it's cheap for them to do it. Why they're doing it is to data mine, to constantly get an idea of incoming employees, how easy they are to get if they need them, where they come from, how to market to them, how much they charge, how much their salary is. It's all manipulation, and it's all stupid, and it's a giant waste of our time, and it's harmful. It's harmful. For example, and I know they've been, some people have been going on, even like this week, they've been going on the shows and like NPR, and they're talking about like, all right, to give you an idea how bad this has become. This information comes from Revelio Labs. Revelio Labs is a company that studies this sort of phenomenon. And 2018, 1 in 5 job postings did not result in a hire. Okay, 1 in 5, right? That's not so bad. Now it's about 50%, 1 in 2 jobs, which means that like half the jobs out there are like nearly half the jobs are fake. That's horrifying. And the problem is, in the United States, we have something called the Fed. And the Fed determines our interest rates. It determines our housing interest. It determines our overall interest rates. It helps with our economy. And the Fed, one of the big economic indicators that they focus on in determining, what those interest rates should be are employment, how strong the labor market is. And they determine that by how many job listings there are for every unemployed person. So right now, the Fed is keeping interest rates high to control inflation, which is causing people problems and homeowners problems already. Anybody with big loans, it's difficult. And so now we have these companies basically fictionalizing this big thing. So I'm going to have another sip of my medicine before we get into the why of this all. Yeah, okay. And then we're going to talk about the labor statistics. Everybody loves that. All right, so let me get into the actual economy. And again, sorry for anybody watching this who's not in the United States. But in the United States, job seekers, we get this news report all over the news. First Friday of every month, the U.S. jobs report. And it comes out, and it's basically, we focus on two main areas here. We talk about unemployment, which is a percentage that we know if it's like a 3% ish or so, it means that the job market's really flourishing. And if it's really high, like 8%, like we're in a recession. And in America, one of the big things that we consider a recession is no jobs. All right. So if even if interest rates are high, even if inflation's over the top, even if everything costs $1 million, a lot of times we don't think to call it a recession. A lot of times the politicians don't call it a recession unless there's a lack of jobs. Jobs really kind of bring that to life to people. So when we're talking about the monthly job reports, we look at that percentage of employment. We also talk about how many jobs employers added in a month. And how many jobs employers add in a month is determined. I mean, it's the same measure that's always been used. So I don't think that there's been any real manipulation, but it's based on payroll. It's based on surveys. The federal, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they call up and they survey different companies and they ask them, how many people have you added to your payroll this year? So it's like legit jobs. It's not about job openings. It's about hiring. So hopefully that seems to be the case still. But the other thing is the percentage of unemployed people. The actual unemployed percentage comes from a couple of stats from employees or people, and they don't focus on people who are out of the labor market, and that includes retirees, stay-at-home mothers, students, people who are not in the job market at all. They don't consider those as employment statistics. They only consider people who haven't actively been looking for a job for 4 weeks, the last 4 weeks, you have to look for a job actively for the last 4 weeks, and you have to not have a job. So the problem with thinking that we only have 3%, we're already starting to see that slide. Like in May, they thought that, and there's a margin of error that's about 50,000. And like in May, they thought that the economy had added 50,000 jobs. Turned out it lost it. So we're starting to see the swing. And we're starting to see kind of the numbers reflect the reality. But when it comes to the percentages, there are like over 5 million Americans who are basically unemployed but aren't counted by the system. Because in modern times, nobody's really truly unemployed. Everybody has like a side gig, like a side hustle. And even if you drive an Uber once or twice a week, or even if you've taken a sabbatical from looking for a job for mental health break, you're out of the pocket there. So you don't count. So there is a big $5 million person gap. What the reality is, though, when people are really looking at those who are studying the job market and the economy, what we're finding is overall, the labor market is strong overall because it's blue collar workers that are doing well. Even this week, I think the state of Florida offered to pay for people to get training and to get construction jobs because they need more people to work on the infrastructure. Blue collar work is thriving. There's 100 different jobs at Uber. Like the low level stuff is fine, but we are starting to see a very real white collar recession. And the economy is kind of slowed down right now because, we have AI. We don't know the exact impacts that AI is going to have in terms of hiring. Why would employers, if they think that a lot of these tasks can be automated or at least accelerated through AI, why would they hire people to do this? Right? So there's a lot of issues with just people kind of on pause. We have right now a very low consumer trust levels. Everybody's kind of on the broke side. All the prices are still high. People aren't like looking to buy a bunch of stuff. Everybody's just sort of on a pause mode. Okay. So the average on normal, and when the economy is normal, the average time it takes for you to apply for a job versus getting a job interview is 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks, 10 business days. Now we're starting to see like 45 days, not necessarily business days, but now it's like kind of the 4 to 5 weeks, just in slow hiring cycles. And we saw a pause like that last summer because people weren't sure if they wanted to necessarily hire remote workers or really force their teams to go back to work. We're still seeing employers struggle with that a little bit. So even if your resume is good, even if things are going great, even if your particular market, like certain markets are having trouble, like technology. Technology is struggling. There are a lot of layoffs. Um, a lot, but healthcare is not having those kind of layoffs, right? Like we need healthcare workers, especially after COVID. So, but the pausing and just the hiring cycle has gotten long. Let's see here. I'm gonna take a little break and a sip because I have a LinkedIn user. Everyone talks about AI, but no one wants to talk about the fact that companies ship jobs overseas and importing people here to take jobs, claiming that Americans will not work for them. So there is the real truth. We have Google. Google, for example, is a big one right now, shipped off thousands of jobs. They're laying off thousands of employees. And I think Ireland because of tax reasons, and also Mexico. So we are starting to see, I think there's also just a real, I've been writing for the last couple of years, focused nearly entirely on Silicon Valley, frankly, and tech people in Silicon Valley. And there's a real, there's like almost like it seems to be like an exodus. Like even within this country, there's a lot of those jobs now moving to Texas, and a lot of it now going overseas. And it is crazy. I feel like we are in a chaos year. I feel like a lot of these companies, I don't even know that they overhired. I think they tend to be a little bit smarter than that. But I think, yeah, they're shipping jobs off. We're going back into globalization mode. Absolutely. I mean, it's true. Uh, and let me take a little sip here just because I'm thirsty. I inspire you all to take a shot too. Relax. Let's look here. Calgon and take me away. And also for any of you that are on the West Coast, thank you for joining. I know it's a little early, but if you're not employed anyway, try to do a little day drinking, right? Okay, so let's see. AI. I'm going to talk about AI, how it's impacting the actual job market. Because, yeah, okay, we're talking about the companies themselves, but also the application process. There are a lot of fly-by-night companies that have come and gone over this last summer that are kind of recreating the early aughts. Early in the 2000s, we started getting like monster.com and places that would just spam resumes. Like you could go in, upload your resume at a lovely little, website, and it would just send it across for hundreds of people. Like if you were a salesperson who only had like pharmaceutical sales, but you were desperate, especially in the recession, and you just wanted any sales job across the country, you didn't care, you really relocate, you could send that bad boy for a little money. There's hundreds and thousands of employers, and most of it would be nonsense. Most of it, you wouldn't line up for those jobs. You wouldn't know the products. You weren't like really good fit. And that is where applicant tracking systems really started taking hold and evolving. They started helping. They've always been like some sort of HR enterprise system, but these were now designed to help employers sort through the hundreds. Because like a normal job back in the day, you get 50, maybe 100, maybe if it's a really great job, you might get 100 applicants, right? But the online world started making that to be like, more than 100, which, again, in the 80s. I know I've been reviewing resumes since I'm like 12, and I used to see the stacks of resumes that my parents would go through on paper. I mean, there never were hundreds of resumes, even for really good jobs, like crazy. But online circumstances really brought that out. And so you have AI or applicant tracking systems to sort that. So now we're kind of going through a new renaissance because what applicant tracking systems do is they prioritize the resumes and organize them based on relevance to the job posting. So if you have more magic keywords and a recruiter does like a relevancy rank and checks how the resume works, it's almost like a Google search. right? When you Google, your golf clubs or something, you'll have some shopping, you'll have some sponsored ads, but if you're looking at the actual search engine results, it's going to be the most relevant, and then it's going to get, after a while, you get tired of looking and you don't look at them. Well, that's how recruiters kind of use ATS. They'll wait a couple days, they'll get like hundreds of resumes, then they'll start kind of looking at them and sorting them so that they don't have to look at a lot of stupid ones, because there are, for most job postings, there are a lot of just truly stupid, completely irrelevant resumes. So they want to avoid even looking at that stuff. So they'll do the relevancy rank. And I should also mention, this is based on industry. So if you're a microbiologist with multiple PhDs and you're sending your resume to some sort of science laboratory, those people are looking at every single resume. It doesn't matter how ATS sorts them. Okay, you're a rare special unicorn. Your resume will be seen and touched by a human being. But if you're at like a low-level sales job or a mid-level sales job and looks like a good benefits, or like a regular Amazon worker, you're going to have a lot more competition. And the more competition you have, there's 300, 400 resumes. They're not usually, a lot of recruiters will like lie and say, oh, of course I look at them all. No, really don't. They'll look at like the top. They'll work their way down. And once they get sick of looking, once they have a really good, juicy handful of applicants to send to the actual hiring manager, aka your future boss, they'll stop looking for the rest, right? So a lot of our jobs as resume writers is to get those to rank high, make them relevant, and function well within applicant tracking. But see, what's happened now is we've had these fly-by-night companies, and one is kind of stuck around. It's called like lazyapply.com. And what it does is you upload a resume, or you copy and paste in their fields or whatever. They create a resume for you. And then you say, okay, this is the fields I'm looking for, maybe the locations, these are the kind of jobs I want. And it'll say, okay, and now we're going to have Lazy apply to all these different jobs on your behalf, and it's going to use the AI to morph the wording to apply to those positions, to match those positions that you rank pretty well in ATS. Well, it seems like a good deal. Problem is twofold. One is, the reality is most people are, I don't want to call anybody lazy in their job search, because I do understand how difficult and frustrating and time-consuming job searches are. And I understand the reason I have a job that I do is a lot of people just deeply hate writing their own resumes and hate everything about the functions of a job search. So don't get me wrong. I don't want to use the word lazy, but there are people out there. We've run into them. I've had a lot of people rewrite. I've had a lot of people come to me to rewrite their AI resumes. Because the AI will morph it in the same qualifications that the job needs, whether you have it or not. So there was an article written very famously, I think it was the Wall Street Journal or the New Yorker a couple months ago, where somebody just sent a resume, spammed it out 120 times, and there was a job that required her to be fluent in Spanish, and she didn't speak a word of Spanish. But the main focus of the job was, you got to speak Spanish. So it's a big waste of time. And so now employers are really struggling, and it's slowing down the hiring cycle because these AI bots are spamming the system. Again, they're doing the spamming, but now the spam is as smart as the ATS. So now they still have to know, they have to look through more. They have to look at LinkedIn profile to make sure that things are legitimate. Luckily, AI is still kind of in the dumb phase, where you can tell it's AI if you've read AI jargon and how long it is, and how it kind of repeats, and how kind of vague AI writing is. A lot of times they can tell. A lot of times it follows a very specific visual format. They can tell when they look at it, okay, this came from Lazy Apply, right? But it's causing more spam. Is it more that these people are more qualified than you? No. Is it more legitimate competition? No. It's just spam. And we got to cut through the spam. So once again, technology is going to be the cause of and the solution to all of our problems, right? So now they're working with these applicant tracking systems to determine, how do we, cut out the AI? How do we are we able to determine if a resume was just generated with AI or not? How can we cut through the clutter and get to the truth? The problem is with that is a lot of people, even if they're really good and they're very qualified, a lot of them use, even professional resume writers will use little phrases from ChatGPT. We'll use little ideas, little concepts, even if it's a sentence, a nugget, and we put it in there. Will those systems detect that? Do you need to be a pure writer? I don't think they're ever going to expect that anymore. I don't think that's the new reality. So I don't know. I can't even predict how this will go. But I just know that, yeah, we're finding just it's a chaos here. It's a bit of a chaos here. So that does bring me to sort of understanding how rejection works. I think if you, first off, you do want to try to avoid fake jobs. You want to avoid fake jobs. You want to, if there's a job that's posted over and over. I mean, if you have the time, if you're not doing anything anyway, I mean, you might as well. They might keep your name, might keep your information, they might consider you. But if you keep applying for the same job month after month after month, it's probably fake. You're probably never going to get a call back. There's just so much out there. If you get, again, recruiters, when they get applications, what they'll do is they'll post a job, they'll wait, a couple days. They don't just sit by the computer and wait, like who's applying now? Who's applying now? No. They'll blow you off, they'll wait. And then they'll come back, several days later and check in and then do a relevance rank and look at, who's the top. They'll start contacting people and they'll start going through. They usually don't wait 2 to 3 weeks after job opening to do that. On average, they don't. So if you see that a job you've applied to opened a day ago, opened yesterday, a couple days, and you apply, as soon as you apply online, you're going to usually get like a thanks for applying, some sort of, boilerplate template response, right? Now, after a few days, after a handful of days, if they say, oh, thank you, but no thank you, what that means is that your resume is probably performing pretty well in applicant tracking systems. Like you cut through the clutter and you got the keyword alignment. And so you're ranked at the very top, But they see you, they've looked at you, they don't like you. They don't want you at the top of their searches. They're still trying to work their way down. So if you get rejected within a few days of applying for a job and the job hasn't been open for a couple of weeks, chances are you're being considered and seen by a human being and rejected. Sorry. If you are constantly getting ghosted, if you are constantly waiting at least 2 weeks, because at a point when they really don't want more applicants, and you're seeing this less and less, it's more ghosting. But when a company really doesn't want any more applicants for a job, they're done, and they want to close the job out, and they've hired somebody, they will normally just close the whole thing out, and it'll send everybody who applied to that job that window. So that typically means, not always, but usually a lot of times it means that not a human being saw you. Now, the big statistics that career coaches and resume writers have had since before the pandemic is that 75% of resumes are never even seen by a human being for consideration. Okay, that was pre-pandemic. That was pre-AI spamming. And to put this into perspective, prior to about 2 or 3 months ago, LinkedIn would advertise exactly how many people would apply for their jobs. So 78 people applied, 123 applied, 212 applied. Now, pretty much all the jobs straight up say 100 plus. That's because of this AI. Since, especially if you apply, and I know there's a lot of them, and I'm just thinking of the one that comes to mind right now. But because of this, the jobs that were getting 100 resumes are now getting 300 resumes, right? So, yeah. You need to rank at the top. Now, personally, there are easy tools to work with to make sure that your resume gets to the top of the system. Now, I know that there are ones that pop up every month. I've heard of one like called Heal recently. I haven't looked into it. Skill Syncer is another one. It's very cheap. It's not as good as my favorite, JobScan, jobscan.com. There's also Skill Syncer, skillsnycer.com, that kind of works at a 10% less. And they're pretty affordable programs, right? Like JobScan, I think is still like $90 for 3 months. Skill Syncer is like something like 10, $12 a month or something. But they're systems where you can take your resume and you scan your resume and then you scan the job you're applying to. And it'll give you a basic score that lets you know, are you going to be on the top of the list? Is a human being going to see you? Or are you going to be on the bottom of the list? Is nobody going to see you? And sometimes, I have videos. By the way, if you guys like this, please, if you're on my YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And I do have a very robust YouTube channel full of helpful hints. I do have videos on how to exactly use JobScan, because sometimes even JobScan advice isn't that good. But you want to match the key phrases used in the actual job description. Now, personally, I use on a fairly regular basis. I use the top two applicant tracking systems used in the United States. Workday, which is the most popular now by Fortune 500 companies. I think it just surpassed Taleo a few months ago to be number one. But it's also, frankly, the worst in the history. Like, I don't know why this one's so popular, but it's just a terrible, terrible, awful system. I've never heard one good thing about it from anybody. Not recruiters, not certainly applicants hate it. But that's the most popular one. There's also Taleo. And I work with these pretty frequently, and I look at how these systems rank and judge resumes. And it's still, they keep saying, oh, AI and all this stuff is going to make it more sophisticated. They're still pretty dumb, okay? They're still pretty dumb systems. So like if you are a sales manager, right, you want to go for the exact same sales management position at Coca-Cola as they have at Pepsi. And Coca-Cola says, you got to meet this sales quota and this sales quota and this sales quota. And Pepsi says this sales goal and this sales goal and this sales goal. And your resume talks about sales objectives. You're not going to be seen by either one of them. If you say sales quota, Coke will see it maybe. If you say, objective or, goal, then Pepsi might see you. But it's really kind of dumb. You have to echo their language. So if you have I like to use strategic skills sections, technical skills sections, just sections where I can swap out key phrases. I've seen really bad advice sometimes from recruiters, including one is like some sort of Fortune 500 executive saying, I've seen all these resumes. You don't need to put the title of what the job you're seeking on the top of the resume. We already know you applied for that job. Well, yeah, duh. But what they don't understand are how these systems actually function, how they prioritize the resumes behind the scenes. They don't see that. They don't consider that. They're just like, okay, I'll do a relevance rank. They don't understand that the titles really shape the relevance rankings. So if you have a headline that says, applying, and I'm not a huge fan of, old timey objectives like, I want to use my skills and talents to better the company. Who cares? I mean, that's just white noise. But if you're able to say, like, even job target, the title of the job, if you've ever had a similar title, that can help with relevancy ranking. If let's say you're a salesperson and you've never sold pharmaceuticals before, but it needs pharmaceuticals. The job has pharmaceuticals listed. You're at Pfizer and they say pharmaceutical a million times. Maybe at the very end of the resume, you put like little industries of interest, interested in pharmaceuticals. Just get the keywords on there, get through the neurobotic overlords, right? And get to a human being. Okay. So these are tools for a resume for strangers. I also have like a lot of tricks. Like if there's a company, a lot of times a company will sort of say, master's degree is preferred, an MBA is preferred, but they'll actually they'll prioritize their ATS. They'll mark it and prioritize it to really make that the thing that prioritizes puts you on the top of the list. And if you don't have a master's degree, if you don't have the initials MBA, you'll sink to the bottom of the list. We want to get you on the top. So if you don't have an MBA, maybe considered it, or if you don't even want it, you put it in your education somehow. You're honest. You got to be honest. But you say things like, willing to earn an MBA for the right opportunity. Or I have the professional equivalence of an MBA, my experience. My life experience is the equivalent to an MBA. And again, it's another little trick to get you on top of those systems. Now, that is for, if that's what you want to do. Honestly, I don't think. Have another drink, people, because now we're going to get into the good stuff. Ooh, that is good. And if you have any questions, I'm going to start entertaining questions here in a minute. I just want to start telling you about some solutions. So, as long as I've been doing this, as long as I was a kid, when my parents were looking to were hiring people, they've always known that the thing in the industry is that 80% of the job market is hidden. 80% is the hidden job market. It's not hidden. It's just about networking. Most people don't want to hear from strangers in a resume. They don't. And look, again, my profession was founded by Leonardo da Vinci. I love resume writing more than pretty much, except for my only husband and family. I pretty much love resumes more than anything else in life. And I am you'll never find somebody who loves resume writing as much as I do. I've won all of the awards. I would like, I want to, be writing resumes until I die. I don't know that's going to happen. I don't know if the industry is going to sustain it. But that said, even I will tell you, it's not the best system for finding a job. Let's be real. The best system has always been networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And as much as I really hate LinkedIn right now, and I'll get into why I hate LinkedIn right now if anybody wants to hear, and Tiffany knows why I hate LinkedIn right now. As much as I really don't want to give them any credit or respect, they did create the very best platform for professional networking the world's ever seen. First off, LinkedIn, everybody pretty much still functions, and there are a couple of yahoos out there that post bikini pictures and the occasional political nonsense on there. But it's not Twitter, it's not Facebook, it's not Instagram. It's a job fair. It's basically a virtual job fair. And most people, if you connect with them, they will connect with you without a lot of questions, okay? So connect and connect. Why you want to connect on LinkedIn is because your visibility on LinkedIn is determined by your connection. So if you looked up, for example, everybody I invited on LinkedIn to this thing are first-person connections to me. They're directly connected to me. LinkedIn works a lot like 6 Degrees of Separation or 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, if you ever played that game. So if you're looking up an executive resume writer, I'm going to be at the top of your list because you and I are directly connected. Then you're going to start seeing people who are connected, executive resume writers who are connected to your connections. And then 3+ connections. But people who are connected directly always get top priority. So the more connections you make, the better off you are. Number one. But what LinkedIn is really, really great at is finding the people you actually want to be your future boss, to find those actual connections that work at the company. So let's say you want to work at a company. They have a LinkedIn page. Most any decent sized company, decently modern company will have its own LinkedIn page. And, just go to the company's website, usually on the bottom or in the contact information where it has a little Facebook icon and maybe an Instagram icon. They'll have a LinkedIn icon. Click on that. It'll usually take you to the company's LinkedIn page. And sometimes, even if they don't have an official LinkedIn page, somebody will think to say, I worked at LinkedIn on their resume. And if more than a few people decide to click on that same link, it will basically come up with its own dummy page. Okay? Under every page, there is an employee count. There is 1,000, like let's say 1 to 10, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000, however many million or whatever. But they'll have not a million, maybe has a million employees. Does anybody have a million? I don't know. But they'll have like a quantity of employees, like a range of employee numbers. And if you click on that, you'll have access to every employee who works at that company. Okay. That is the most valuable tool anybody can use in their job search because there are two things you can do with that. One is understand, again, it's always been the truth. It is not who you know, it's what you know. And there are some really ridiculous statistics on this. Let's see here. I'm trying to find it. I guess I don't have all these notes. But it's something like ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, it's something ridiculous about like you're like 30 to 50% more likely. Here we go. Referrals. If somebody within a company refers you to work at that company, referrals account not new hire, not people that you find from a resume being sent to your inbox, right? Referrals, people who somebody within the company has referred to work within the company currently make up 30 to 50% of hires. 30 to 50% of all total hires, okay? You want referrals, you want networks, right? And then if you are a referral, you have a 40% better chance of getting hired than if you're just some stranger sending it to whom it may concern resume. So you want to get in. You have many options here. If you see a company and you have access to all of their employees, obviously you're working and spamming all of them. I would recommend finding people with the job titles closest to you. Now, here's the other thing. A lot of large companies, they have internal referral programs. They actually encourage, they don't want to read these resumes either, especially now. They don't want to go through the AI systems, the ATS. It's annoying. And it costs recruiters time, and it's a big, just mucky muck mess for everybody, especially now, especially referrals. So now a lot of companies are like, look, Tim, if you know anybody that'll work for us that you like, we'll throw you $1,000. They're giving like internal bonuses. So a lot of times, if you approach somebody, you just message them through LinkedIn's email, and you approach them and you say, hey, here's my resume. This is what I kind of do. If you know anybody who's looking for it, or you have anybody I could forward this to, let me know. Start approaching people that way. You can also, if for example, like let's say you're an inside sales pro. That this company has great benefits. This company has good culture, and obviously try to research some of these companies. And you're like, I'm an inside sales guy. I want to be a direct contributor. I'm going to go to the VP of sales or the director of inside sales, or I'm going to look at who would be my future boss. Let me find the person who has a title that would be closest to like being my future boss. I'm going to reach out to them directly. Here's my resume. Are you looking to hire? It works a lot more. It's a much better system. So yes, network, get to know, connect. People are very happy to connect on LinkedIn. And if you do connect on LinkedIn, please do not say like, what up? It's not a dating app. Okay, people, if you have something to say on LinkedIn, make it directed, targeted, say what you're going to say. Don't say, hey there. Those are like the worst. Those are the worst messages ever. So avoid those. And yeah, just one little thing about LinkedIn. I know that I saw a lot of you guys from Open to Work, hashtag Open to Work, and I'm going to get into that just a little bit. If you are on LinkedIn and you are struggling to find a job, and a lot of people do this when they're frustrated or they're just starting out, and they'll open up, you have this thing you can just put on your profile, big green swipe Open to Work, and it'll start you off with an announcement to everybody in your network, Open to Work. Please refer me. Please pass me around. Please show me off to all of your connections and anybody that might be hiring somebody like me. It's actually really effective. It can be very helpful. Like maybe 5 days, maybe a week. After that, you're going to start to get spammed. The BS jobs kind of get there. I don't know that open to work really helps or hurts in terms of hiring anymore because a lot of people, since the pandemic, it's not the old school rules anymore. Everybody's in between. The gig economy has reached all the way to the top. About a third of my clients anymore are top level executives, C level executives that are just sort of, they call them portfolio careers. And a portfolio career person is somebody who's, I'm an interim C-suite. I only held this C-level job for 2 years because that's how long C-level jobs apparently hold anymore. Or I'm a consultant and I'm also looking for operating partnerships and thought leaderships. I'll go on your podcast. I'll go on your board of directors. They have like 40 things that they're doing at once. The gig economy has gone from top to bottom in this country. Okay, it doesn't matter how much you make. Everyone's like balancing 40 different jobs. So having the open to work doesn't necessarily make you look more pathetic anymore, the way it used to, like the old school thinking was. But it just on that on LinkedIn, it's gonna attract a lot of like career coaches like me, and we've had like this last couple of weeks. Most career coaches, most resume writers had service pages still have service pages on their accounts. So if you go into LinkedIn, you go on their profile page, it'll show the services that they offer. And you click on that and see what they offer, sign up for a consultation, get proposals. And that's how like so many people in the career industry were getting all of their leads, right? They kind of trashed that in the last 2 weeks and made it international so that if somebody, like me is working, working usually with people in San Francisco, people in major cities in the United States now, I'm getting like leads in Uganda, right? People are getting like, somebody who makes as much as I charge for a resume an entire year of their life, an entire annual salary. I'm getting, those leads, so I can't help them. They want to work with people in person. So LinkedIn has kind of messed this up for a lot of career coaches. So if you do open to work, you're probably going to get stalked pretty heavily. You're probably going to get approached by a lot of people, especially if they have premium accounts. So it's kind of it's slim pickings out there, right? Let's see, but yeah, I think that's a lot of information that I have for you. Do anybody have any questions? You think you guys would want to like do this? Probably not weekly, right? But anything you guys that I didn't touch on that you guys want to know about right now? And if I have been of any help for you, again, please like, subscribe if you're interested in getting a pretty darn fail-proof resume. Um, Something that's gorgeous and special. I'm available for consultation. Every one of these events, whether you're seeing it on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, you have a link within the comments or a link to my calendar to schedule a free consultation. You do one-on-one resume evaluation. Or take a look at my work a little closer up. I know I have some of I have like 33 of my 51 award-winning resumes hanging behind me. But anybody who works with me in the industry knows I'm very generous with my information. It got me here. So anybody in the chat have any questions for me? I'm happy to hear. Otherwise, you're just gonna watch me drink. And I hope I didn't depress too many of you. Also, let me know in the chat, what are you guys drinking tonight? Dave, are you drinking wine too? I actually feel that's what the wine is for, exactly. Now, I actually feel I'm glad I didn't do like whiskey. Again, I don't normally like Merlot, but this is really. So I want you guys to try it, but I will give a thumbs up here. Tequila, there you go. Oh, the usual. Dave is on the bourbon, the Woodford Reserve. That's excellent choice too. Excellent choice. Well, oh, oh God, all right. Rob with the Mondavi, the cab. Oh, decoy is good. Yep. I need to have a glass of milk with you, Beth, sometime. I miss your face. I miss a lot of your faces, people. Okay, well, thank you guys. I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna probably cook myself up a pizza here. And please share. Please, if this is helpful to anybody, please pass it on. I know some of you are actually in the career industry, not only as career coaches, but I know that, like Beth, I know you work in employment, and some of your job seekers probably need some help. Um, it's tough out there. It's a rough world, but you can get through it with a little bit of strategery. Okay. Well, you guys, good night. It's been a pleasure talking to all you. You guys have a great one.